Hello, everyone, and welcome to Whale Project Showcase. Today, we're featuring CodeTrip, a project pushing the limits of creativity on the blockchain, literally, with procedurally generated interactive cinematic experiences, dripping with nostalgia and fun. I'm joined today by their co-founders, Paradox and 9/0. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh yeah, nice to be here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
I was worried that you were you no longer wanted to participate in 9/0, but I'm glad you you had second thoughts about that and are able to share with us. Really excited to talk to you guys today. A lot of us within the whale community had actually saw when the project was happening, and this was prior to us even having any communication. And I happened to share it just because I often do when I find something that I think is pretty cool and innovative that I think people would want to see and discuss. So really excited to talk to you about the project. Before we hop into that, could you just give us some brief introductions and backgrounds on who you are and and what you do in Web3.
Cool. Shall I go first, 9/0? What do you reckon?
Of course, yeah.
Cool. So hey guys, I'm Paradox. Firstly, I want to say I've been part of the whale community since like before day one. I mean, I've been following Whale Shark and filming loads of bits and pieces in all these different spaces and stuff. But yeah, I've been here a long time. But who am I and what do I do? So I'm Paradox or Paradox Media. I'm the creative director of CodeTrip. But bigger than that, I call myself a metaverse videographer. So that's my background's like TV and film, a lot of freelance work in the UK, a lot of videography. But yeah, during kind of the pandemic, I moved into the metaverse because I had some free time. And since then I've been working a lot with communities. I've been kicking out artworks, filming a ton of events. That's kind of my main gig because there's not that many metaverse filmmakers out there or anyone that documents these events. I've been doing that for about 4 years now. Is it 4 years? 3 years? Nearly something like that. So I'm a videographer and an editor, and I do something called the WIP meetup every single week. That's it's a group that meet together. It's WIP, so work in progress. We feature loads of different projects, or anything that's kind of in the crypto scene that people want to talk about. It gives people that kind of voice, and that's every Thursdays. It's pretty good. So yeah, I'm here. I'm in the metaverse, and I am Paradox. And I'll pass you over to 9/0.
Well, just a moment before we do that, I wanted to make mention, I did a quick search because I recall talking to you at different points throughout the past few years. And indeed, you were there in May at the maiden voyage, which is quite a badge of honor within the whale community. So that was definitely dope to see. But also, I do recall us interacting, at various points in the past on the Discord and the various NFT communities. Of course, at the WIP, where I'm trying to get in a shot. Never know what's going to make the reel right, but I'm trying to flex with some of my gear that I get from some of the dope wearables from Noisy, our resident mayhem voxel architect. But also, there was an episode of Metaverse Cribs where I had seen the whale properties, some of them that NFT Studios had put together. I pulled up some of them here. I think we have House of M is one of them, and I think the Pagoda project as well. So those were pretty cool. So yeah, you've been putting in work for a long time. Metaverse, just NFTs in general. And you said that you were following Whale Shark prior, so you were interested in the tech and what tokenization was doing even before kind of the run up, right?
Oh yeah. Like I said, I worked with like a ton of different communities and projects. Currently, I'm working over with the Monoverse team. I'm kind of heading up all things video, working closely with their marketing team. So that's filming all of their events. That's kind of like my full-time gig at the minute. But I've also done. I've worked for by proxy. I've worked for a lot of people. Like recently, things like Prada. Being able to shoot like some of like Whale Shark stuff. I worked for I had a what was known like a metaverse grant from the Metaverse community, and that was about 2 years ago. And that basically was a grant for creatives to basically go out and make awesome things for the community. And what you're seeing now is the Metaverse Cribs, and it's very much like the real Cribs show. So it's exploring different builds in all the different metaverse worlds, kind of using all camera angles and getting interviews, that sort of thing. But it was just kind of highlighting creatives. And that's one thing I would say about myself is that it's not all about me. You know, a lot of the stuff I do is for community, and it's showcasing other people's work. Like I mentioned, the Whip meetup. I create videos focusing around the events every single week. It's all community stuff, you know, and that's like super important. It's not just how do I get in the scene, how do I make money, you know. So that kind of like community aspect is really, really important to me.
Super dope, super dope. And 9/0, keen to hear a little bit about you as well and kind of your introduction to the space.
CodeTrip's actually my introduction to the space, working with Paradox. So I was a senior software developer before this, and I left my job to pursue CodeTrip. And we worked inside of Paradox's dining room across his living room and dining room. But yeah, no, it was a great experience. We had some downs. We had a lot of ups. We argued a lot. We got on with a lot of conversations inside of a car because Paradox used to pick me up a lot. But yeah, so Paradox dragged me in, and we're going to continue with Web3. CodeTrip is now a team, and we're going to stick together with that and kind of pursue other things which aren't CodeTrip, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of be here and kind of I've learned a lot from Paradox, more about the scene because I had no information about it. In fact, I was quite skeptical of it.
Yeah, you were.
I saw. Yeah, I was. I was extremely.
What was it you said to me? Go on, Paradox. You play with your magic internet money.
Yeah. It was. Well, he was putting like £50 in Litecoin and putting another 50 into like Bitcoin. He didn't really have a solid plan, but I got convinced by the NFT scene and also being able to use my skill as a programmer to actually be able to build anything. And then that became a lot more interesting to me. And CodeTrip was born out of Paradox's vision, and I worked out how to put it together.
He did the
That's
hard work.
super dope. Now you talk about being, coming from your background as a developer, not trying to pry, but just in a general sense, were you working in development of creative endeavors, or was it more, corporate entities and doing things like that?
It was corporate, but at the same time, it was creative. So I only had like 2 weeks working in C#, like privately at home, and then my boss I kind of went for a job as a low-level developer. It was just me and my boss in a company, and he had an idea to generate digital twins of the UK. So that would be like a digital representation, which actually a lot of the concepts and ideas that he had kind of matched up with what Paradox had with CodeTrip, and there's a lot of similarities and crossover without actually breaking any NDAs that I've signed up for. So it's all completely original. We were using Unity to actually build the digital twin, but actually a lot of the code, the ideas, the concepts I actually learned in the industry.
Very cool. Very cool. And, so Paradox has been, involved in some time, both crypto, it sounds like many of us that found our way here, as well as, a lot of the creative things through the NFT and the artists that have just, built this movement. I've seen some of your work that you have up as well, Paradox. So kudos to you for really exploring the different facets possible with this technology. But 9/0, how did you guys come together? Were you guys in the same corporate environment, or through it was a chance meeting? How did this kind of meeting of the minds happen?
I've known him for ages. We've been friends for quite a while. So Paradox has always been interested in film, 3D, like 3D modeling and stuff like that. And we kind of got introduced by a friend between us, and I was also doing 3D modeling at the time, and I think through that we kind of started a friendship.
Very cool.
Paradox, do you
So
wanna?
so long time friends, but just recent, dipping your toes into the same, arenas that he was in. Finally, he convinced you, it seems.
Yeah, this is the first project I think we've actually gone through all the way to releasing. Like,
But we've done so many before that, like ones we started and never finished.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is the first one, which is it just seemed like a good idea. It was worth the 2.5 years of scratching my head and kind of putting something together.
Let's talk. So let's jump in. I always like to get a little bit of a foundation on the creatives and kind of what the impetus is and how that comes together. But let's jump into the project. CodeTrip. Talk us through what is CodeTrip, and just give us a synopsis before we dive into more of the details.
Shall I take this 900? Cool. I've got written here, and I like this. We set out to create fun-sized interactive, like a fun-sized interactive metaverse space, and it's not something that I've seen before in terms that's in a nice little box in a generative art piece. There's a lot to CodeTrip. It's pretty big. It launched on Prohibition, which is on the Arbitrum chain. It was originally, we were developing for ETH mainnet, but as you know, it's quite expensive to upload data to the blockchain. So the idea is you have to kind of shrink everything down. So in terms of code size, let's have a look. So, but back to kind of what CodeTrip is. It's you take a car. I think you can see it on screen now. Yeah. So you're driving through a metaverse. It's your own kind of unique metaverse. Let's have a look. There's loads of things. So there's different skies. There's different what we call monoliths. There's different backgrounds. There's different cars. There's different accessories on the cars. You can control the car by kind of zooming around. You can play with the accessories. And there's things like interactive menus in there. It's pretty like crazy what we've packed into this kind of small amount of code. But as I mentioned, we're on Prohibition, which is on the Arbitrum. I can't say that Arbitrum chain, meaning that the upload costs are less than 5% of that of the Ethereum chain. So we were able to do more. But yeah, would you say that's about what we are 900 in a nutshell?
So I'll go over the figures because I kind of have them memorized. I've just taken notes of where Paradox has gone wrong. It was just less than 2% of the cost of mainnet, ETH mainnet, whereas so it was $11,000 that we would have had to pay to upload this at 30 GY to ETH mainnet.
And that's cheap on gas.
Yeah. And we had to do a lot of the way I programmed it. We were cutting corners everywhere to try and shrink the code to try and put as much in as possible, because everything you're seeing, there's no 3D model assets that have been pre-made by any human being. It's all been written with code. So that car is being generated by multiple blocks. So to fit it in, if we uploaded a 3D model, that car would have cost us most of our budget. So we went all the way down to $210 because of Arbitrum, the Arbitrum network, which is absolutely amazing. And as far as I'm aware, Nostradamus from Prohibition has told me that it's going to get cheaper, which is amazing.
Wow. There's so much to really wrap your head around with this project. I want to make sure I do it justice for anyone that may be checking it out for the first time. So please correct me if I'm wrong in anything I'm about to say here, but this is my layman's understanding of CodeTrip. And I guess the reason I geeked out on it in the first place without really looking at the nuts and bolts, right? So from a generative art perspective, I'm not really way down the rabbit hole. But I'm familiar with art blocks. I'm familiar with that technology. I'm familiar with procedurally generated gener art, what that is, right? And I can mint something that's going to generate, it's going to be uniquely mine. It's going to be a one of one that only I will have. So for me, my participation in the space, I think that's super dope because, I like to have that special. I say that's my own, right? It's unique. I have that special relationship with the creator. There's a lot of stuff I think is cool about it. You see that a lot of time with people expressing various art forms, right? So this takes that aspect and then marries it with it being interactive. So like alone, first of all, I'm a geek for the aesthetic. So shout out to you guys for putting this, I don't know what I'd call it, PlayStation 1-esque, like polygon inspired like gaming. Like this truck here has has dual guns on the front. Like I'm all about it, right? There's so much that's dope about this that pulls me in. But the fact that I can interact with this and move and change the camera angle. And there's different things happening in both the environment as well as with the vehicle is wild to me. It's wild, right? So I'm like, this is interactive, it's generative, it's gaming-esque in some of the ways that I can control it and do things. And I got to be honest with you guys, when I first saw it, all I understood was it would generate, and it had all these really cool different variations. In fact, I saw one that was like some black aesthetic with a yellow grid. I'm going to show some of the different things that can pop up here when I asked you guys to give me a peek under the hood. But I didn't realize this. Like, in addition to all of that, you guys have inserted really, really, in-depth controls here to do a lot here relative to the perspective, to how the camera angle is going to come in, right? Like as deep as you want to go. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. And I'd be keen to hear some of your perspective on that also. But super dope. Super dope. And I know there's ways to change into cinematic mode, et cetera, and a lot of different things here. So there's so much that's possible with this and so much that's going on that I think that even our discussions within the community that we had, we still didn't really capture it all. So was really hyped to be able to talk to you guys about it. But all that aside, all the amazing tech stuff you did, reducing the size, making it generate when you do it, it's just super dope. Like this could have been something that put me to sleep, and I may have snored on if I wasn't keen. Like if I wasn't a person that was into like Gen R and like NFTs, maybe I'd be like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. You did this tech stuff, but I feel like I can play with this, right? So you married this super amazing stuff you're progressively doing with the tech, putting it on chain, which is a whole nother philosophical discussion I want to go down, but making it accessible and something that people would want to play with and engage with. So kudos to you for all of that. That's my layman experience in checking this out. I got to put on my mask because I'm hyped up talking about it now. I want to hear more of you guys talking about what's going on under the hood. They generate this. What's happening? When I go to visualize this and I check the controls, what's happening? How are you guys making this work?
None of his error.
Right. Like that's a huge question.
Well, I mean,
there's a lot of problems.
Yeah, and any nuggets we would be appreciated. Please don't feel like you have to. I'm known to ramble a bit, so.
No, it's a great understanding. You can actually thank Prohibition for the menu going in and Arbitrum for the menu going in, also the shaders on top. But at its bare minimum, it's kind of like a bunch of layers put together in Photoshop. So you've got the sky is on one layer, the stars go on another layer. The stars have a set pattern that they follow depending on the traits that we set. So it kind of shoots them into the sky and kind of places them. This one has meteorites or shooting stars, which are kind of like going across the sky. The hardest thing I think to actually put in was the loop itself. So you're not going on forever. You're kind of like moving across a set piece of terrain that you have, and every single time it loops, you're seeing a tile in front and a tile behind you, and syncing up all the animation was probably the hardest thing to do, especially with JavaScript and Free.js, because it's so far away from what I'm used to developing in. In Unity, I would just know how I was going to do it, whereas I think that took a week in itself just to kind of work that part out. The car used to be a box that just slid across the screen, and then we eventually got around to actually creating a truck, and the truck was the first one to go in. We have a debug car in there now, so since we're not kind of holding back and showing you anything, hiding anything now. There's a debug car, which is kind of a representation of the initial car that went in. The control system is a whole another thing. It was a whole system which Paradox play tested constantly. He's got quite a few videos of him just laughing while driving, and he's having way too much fun for someone who's supposed to be working. But for me, the ground basis would be the train. The train uses Perlin noise. Me and Paradox, we both curated different sets. So I think this one would probably be Danger Pass with a micro car. There's over 72 or 79 properties that kind of determine what's happening. So the background buildings, the mountains, the color, the floor, the terrain color, the terrain type of style, the shooting stars, the sun color, the direction, if the sun moves, the lasers in the background, the buildings. There's so much we put
Sheesh.
together. I think there's about 9 properties that describe the car, the shape of the car, if it elongates itself, if it's micro, if it's got a back accessory, front accessory, middle accessory. All the controls are added in dynamically in the code. It's I mean, I'm kind of surprised they built it, to be honest. Like, there's so much in there.
This
I mean,
project, so I was gonna say this project kind of didn't suffer, but it scope creep. It was one of those projects where we had an idea, and then because we were working in the same building at the time, we just got excited, and then so the dynamic between us was I have a vision. I go to 9/0. I say, "Can you make this?" He says, we get an idea of roughly how long it's going to take. He goes away and works on it, comes back, and then we kind of curate, change. And I'm a big baby. I have to get my own way about how it looks. But we just got excited every single day working on this and kept adding features and more detail and layers. And then when we knew we were developing for Prohibition on the Arbitrum train, still can't say that, it was like, oh, now we have a much bigger kind of budget for all the costings. The upload costs can be a lot less. So we're like, okay, let's work on a menu. And because I'm a videographer, I was like, okay, well, I can't make this world and not be able to fly around it. How am I going to make the marketing videos? How are people going to see the little details off in the distance? And then I'm playing with it as well. It's like you can't make a car driving down the road and not drive. And then sometimes the sun goes away, so it's like, okay, well, we got to have headlights. Now we've got guns. Okay, well, you can't have a gun and in film you can't see a gun and it not go off, so we've got to add more to that. So yeah, scope creep, and it was pretty fun. Sorry, back to you now.
Yeah, no, I was just going to mention, like, I thought and looking at the controls and seeing how I could manipulate the camera, that I had unlocked all these new possibilities. And then just now I discovered the tab where I could literally fire off the rockets and steer the vehicle and mess with the accessories. I can't even wrap my head around the level of complexity to create this. But before I get there, I'm just having too much fun just playing with it, right? Like, it's super dope. What was, you talk about creep, you talk about being excited when you guys talked about possibilities. What was the specific inspiration for this project? Did you guys say, look, this tech could be really cool, I would love to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and no one's doing it? What was kind of the inspiration for the path that went down, or did it just kind of end up here serendipitously?
Can I take this one quickly, 9/0? So when I came to 9/0 with this idea of generative art, because basically, when one of your friends is an excellent programmer, and then you see generative art, it's like, well, I need someone that can help me, and this guy's perfect. It was a perfect project for us both. But at the time, I was working on a load of it was like mid to early hype season of crypto, and I was doing like a lot of promotional videos for all these different crypto projects. And at the time, the style was very much kind of neons and glitches and kind of like cyberpunk, that kind of thing. It's kind of what I would call it, like quintessential metaverse sort of thing. So a lot of these projects are asking for assets like stock footage that's all very much cyberpunk and stuff. So that kind of style was on my mind a lot at the time. And then when we came together and kind of came up with this concept, it just seemed obvious to do something that we thought was very metaverse and kind of what we wanted to do. But 9/0, I know you want to talk about id Software as kind of an inspiration.
Yeah, so like id Software, so Paradox actually got me to buy a book from Audible, and the two, I can't remember their names now, two Johns,
John Romero, John Carmack.
yeah. So both of those kind of came together and kind of, they have this sort of same sort of dynamic as me and Paradox do. They were both programmers, but Romero definitely was more creative than Carmack, whereas Carmack was definitely more creative when it came to coding. And this has been a whole creative process. But I think one of the key things is we both wanted to build a world. We both wanted to build a universe inside of something, and to do that inside of generative art is quite ambitious. And also, we like telling stories, so giving someone a world, and also the car actually allows us to put you actually inside the world. And I thought that was really cool, to be able to do something which hadn't been done inside of generative art, as far as I'm aware. That was kind of huge for me, and also it was ambitious, and everyone gets something completely unique. And I feel like id Software did that with Doom, with Wolfenstein, just even being inspired by first-person shooters.
But pushing the boundaries, right? That's what they did
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, exactly. Like pushing the boundaries. Everything was new. So Wolfenstein was quite an old game, which wasn't first person. They made it first person, and then Doom was pushing the boundaries of the technology, and also pushing the boundaries for what games now even use as a basis to even run from. It was kind of amazing, and we kind of wanted to inspire people as well, just like we were inspired by them, is show what actually can be done. And now with Arbitrum and Prohibition, that boundary is actually a lot further. We ran out of time when we found out that we was going to Prohibition, so we added a couple of effects in. So we made the pixelation that got added in, all of the shaders. There's a CodeTrip mode which kind of glitches everything. These were all fun things that we wanted to give to everyone. The menu, being able to change every setting, and on top of that, yeah, the menu and the shaders, which was actually inspired by Paradox, because he did a marketing video with chromatic shift and scan lines, so they all got added in as well. So yeah, id Software definitely had a big impact on us, not only just because of the people, but what they were able to achieve.
And then just generally 90s, sort of early 90s games, like from our childhood sort of thing, was a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I do remember people sneaking copies of Wolfenstein and loading them onto my computers at school at one point, along with another game. I think it was Strip Poker or something, right? When they were trying to pretend they just had Snake on a calculator. But those were another days, another time. Now you guys are really pushing the boundaries here. The inspiration to lean into that aesthetic came from that, kind of connection, I guess, right? Where you saw the people that were being progressive and pushing what you thought was capable and blowing your mind. I mean, there was a time when, believe it or not, when I took home Mario 64 and I pulled on his nose, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I showed it to someone much younger than me nowadays, and they're like, yeah, can you load up Fortnite? But at the time, that was a wow moment, much like this must be to people checking this out for NFTs. Just curious though, you said there's the CodeTrip mode. How do I activate that here?
Okay, so if you press the escape key,
yep,
you should bring up the menu, and let's have a look. If you go to settings, there's effects and settings, I think it is, and then scroll all the way down. So in this you've got control over like things like FOV and effects and RGB shift, but we've got these engage CodeTrip mode. So if you pick one, they get progressively more insane, but you'll see what happens. So you're going for the insane one. Let's see what happens.
Oh wow.
So then it adds a lot to it.
There's so many possibilities here. Like, it's absolutely incredible, what you guys have put into this. You guys talk about Prohibition art and some of the possibilities that they made accessible for you, and streamlining this. But you also mentioned that you had to quickly, kind of come to a close, right? And say, okay, we're going to wrap this and then work on some other things. Talk about, because I know a lot of people that are just becoming familiar with what Prohibition art does, maybe through Heart and Craft. If you could give people just a brief on, if they haven't tried it yet because they're apprehensive with Arbitrum and that being the extra, step or hurdle that they have to do, how it helped you as a creator, and if you thought that it was, besides from a cost perspective, how it was beneficial for what you were working on.
Let's have a look. So first of all, Prohibition is it's an online platform. It's on the Arbitrum chain. However, it is using the smart contracts from Art Blocks. So they've sort of teamed up. So it's kind of like Art Blocks on Arbitrum, but run by different people, and it's got a slightly different ethos. Prohibition is kind of open to everybody. There's no curation board. There's no kind of different categories. I think they're going to be introducing some informal curation, so like community curation, but generally it's open and accessible to anyone, which is kind of we really enjoyed as well. It means you're not worrying about, oh, am I going to get into curated, and what category am I going to be in? You create because you want to create, and that was really important to us. You can now buy. You have to have an Arbitrum wallet, but I know now that they are introducing ways to buy NFTs on Arbitrum through Prohibition via ETH. So you can even pay using like Ethereum soon and credit cards and bits. So it's all again very open. But from a back end perspective, 9over0 is probably much more qualified to talk about that. So
yeah. So I mean, we went from a $11,000 upload fee all the way down to $210. That's probably one of the biggest things, because we're not even scratching the surface of what we're able to add to this. We would have programmed everything different. We'd probably have a bigger plan, but not only that is the back end. You've got a development environment, so an IDE that I believe Dorkin and Nostradamus have set up, and it's impressive. It's still in its infancy, but it is impressive. The UI is nice. It looks nice. It's easy to navigate. They are working on different things, but from the back end, that people who don't program will kind of understand is it's a great community. Like, the developers have worked very closely with us. They kind of looked after us through the whole process. They kept us up to date with what was happening when we were gonna do things, because we were talking with them before Prohibition even launched. So we saw early screenshots. Then they were telling us kind of how we were needing to prepare. They spent for us it was nighttime, but we spent a whole night with them, just trying to upload on the first day. We had a couple of bugs come up, and they were extremely fast at fixing them and kind of
great.
listening to us. Yeah, they were amazing. It's probably my favorite night I've had since last year. It was this year even. I really enjoyed it. Talking to them is always kind of a pleasure. It's never harsh. It's never we're never in. There's always a solution, and it's easy to kind of come to them with a problem and talk to them. As a people person, or less so a people person on my end, that was probably the most impact they had for me, is just making it easy to go to them, and they were so helpful. I don't know if Paradox can add in on that.
I mean, my main sort of takeaway is that so Art Blocks is wonderful. It's amazing, but they're kind of, the UI is a little bit clunky. It's battle hardened. It's hard as nails, but Prohibition comes along and streamlines it and just makes it nice to use. We were kind of surprised about that. So kudos to them, and I think they're doing it really well. But Prohibition, of course, I've got a big put a lot of importance on community, but also collaboration. They've just set something up, well, it's been up for a while, where they will try and link creatives such as myself and programmers or coders like 9/0. So that kind of matchmaking
Oh
system.
wow.
Yeah, and that's really cool. I mean, we already had that for us, but there's so many creatives out there that need that guy. They need that
Yeah,
guy.
we get that question so much in the Discord with the artists that are there and you know, super talented but to be able to take their ideas to fruition is not easy. It's not easy when you know, you need to have that partner, but you need to find one with a shared vision and you know, and it can work collaboratively on the same thing. And that's, you know, that's going to work out differently than just reaching out to someone cold that's, you know, not into the arts, or maybe doesn't have the same passions. You guys may have been playing Wolfenstein at one point together. I don't know, but there are some instances where that happens, and some people don't have that. So that's very cool to hear on the back end. You talk about the development, how they help that. That led me to another question. You also mentioned, I think, 2.5 years from like different concepts to where we are now. How would you characterize the development process for this? Like akin to how I would ask someone that was a painter, talk me through, you know, from beginning to end, what was your process for this? Obviously a lot more in depth, not looking for every detail, but talk to me about like from conceptualizing to the different iterations. Like what was that like for you guys? Because this is clearly a passion. This is clearly a passion for you.
It's been a very, very long road. Like I said, I first kind of came to 9/0 about 2.5 years ago to say, let's do a generative art project. And this was at the time where Chromie Squiggles was being given away, you know, at the whip as like prizes for like little obstacle courses. So, you know, that it kind of shows its age. Yes, it wouldn't happen now.
Which, by the way, I still suck at those obstacle courses, but I try.
Yeah. But what kind of happened is 9/0 kind of worked on kind of like all the concepting and getting everything. It was very much a part-time thing for what do you reckon, a good year and a half. And then we basically got to a certain point where 9/0 was working, you know, weekends and evenings sometimes on it. And a year and a half went by, and we were like, geez, we've done 15% of this project. It's nowhere near done.
We hadn't even done that.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
weren't even close.
So what kind of happened is 9/0 at the time it just left the job. So I sort of said, crazy idea. Come work from my house. I will pay you the absolute bare minimum I can to keep you alive. We figured out a few months in that I was paying them less than the minimum wage.
I got a pay increase.
You did up to minimum wage. No, it was
Up
1
to
penny
minimum
more.
wage.
Yeah. And,
is he in a dungeon right now in your basement? Is this what's going on?
No, we kicked him out.
No wonder why you got such a dope product with all these features. You held someone there against their will, but you fed them some sandwiches, evidently.
Yes, there was lots of perks, weren't there? 9/0.
There was loads of perks. There was coffee every morning. He picked me up from my house. Once it was raining, he brought an umbrella to my door. Yeah, he treated me really well. We got Red Bull, we got Starbucks on the way. I'd get there, he'd take me to the supermarket, we'd stock up on my food for the week. Yeah, it was
like
great.
A princess.
Yeah, I mean, we worked till 2 a.m. some nights, but you know,
right.
It was great. He only picked me up at 11 because of his American schedule, but sometimes we'd work all the way up till 2. Sometimes he would set me a 15-minute challenge right at the end of the day, and sometimes it took 15 minutes, sometimes it took an hour.
Kick out code, it'd be awful.
Yeah, and then the next morning I would come in and I'd have to sort all that code out, right? Because sometimes I'd be breaking stuff like constantly. It was a really interesting. It was fun. It was at times stressful. Both of us annoying each other. Both of us working separately, and then every so often, every like 15 minutes, Paradox would have an idea, and all of a sudden now we're in a conversation that takes 2 hours, and then he'd have to go back to work and I'd have to go back to my work. It was fun. It was really enjoyable. It's a shame we can't do it now because Paradox is a father, and I think
congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, his son would not be able to handle it.
Actually, there's a thing in there as well. You know, when you first find out your partner's pregnant, or as a couple, you don't tell people for what is it, 10 weeks or something like that. 9/0 is working from our house, and my poor partner is having like awful morning sickness, and 900 pops in, was like, "Morning, how are you?" Jabber, jab, 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 jab. Oh, and we couldn't tell him.
Yeah, you've got me on my best behavior. If you get to know me for a bit, it's I talk fast, I talk loud, and I don't stop. But
Well,
yeah.
I mean, we went through a new family member being brought in. I mean, that's quite the process cycle that you had there. I'm interested to know the synergy. You know, you talk about Paradox having a lot of ideas and coming to you. Paradox, you obviously have a lot of background in cinematography, how to frame things, perspectives, views. How to translate that into, you know, how that gets reflected with something that's generated with code and not even like assets, if I'm
Oh,
understanding this correctly, is wild.
Even just like what you're seeing on screen, that camera angle, that was completely forced by Paradox. The fact that we flip over. So Paradox kind of had a much harder job with working out what I could produce until we actually got something on screen. And I was building the world completely blind. So it's like I type characters into a computer, then I get to run it and see what the world looks like. And that's when Paradox gets to see it. So we actually set up a kind of like a local server on my laptop. So Paradox could just press F5 and all of a sudden, wait,
See
have
what
I
you're
just
working on.
been... Yeah, he could see what I was working on. The worst part about that is he would comment on it, like when I was halfway through building something. So I think we had an argument over jet engines because I'd not put them in the right place. And he's like, just let me tell you what I want and then you can build it. And I was like, no, I just need to set this up to make it dynamic so everyone can use it. And then eventually he left me alone and then we worked it out. But yeah, he could just press... He could just go to a website, view what I was doing, and I'd be halfway through something. He's like, that doesn't look right to me. It's like, it's half done. I'm like still putting like a block in, or it needs a bit more detail. It's like I'm working blind as well as he is. So that you're just kind of trying to work together. It was probably the best thing I gave him and also the worst thing I gave him. So
I loved it. It's like have a sneak peek of what your employee, not that your employee, but have a sneak peek of what they're doing.
Hey man,
reference.
it's like they're like me in the kitchen. I tell people, get out of here. Don't try to taste something, right? You wait till I give you the finished dish with the garnish on it, because you're gonna judge it. You're gonna judge it before I have it just the way I like it. And you know, sometimes that last little bit pulls it all together. So yeah, it may look fragmented now. So I feel you over there, 9/0. I can feel your pain.
yeah,
I'm not a cook. I'm not a coder, so I don't know what he's doing at all.
Right.
I actually built a hidden environment that Paradox couldn't actually see to start testing in, because after that jet engine sort of conversation we had, so I could actually get something done and then
First time hearing
actually
about
move
this.
over. Yeah, it is the first time you're hearing about this. Most of it was done in this environment we both shared, but then that way he was not looking at half finished things, because I would create a bug and all of a sudden Paradox be telling me about this bug and I'd be like, I'm fixing it, just leave me alone and let me sort it out. Or it'd be like, send me a screenshot over Discord and I'll just be like, just leave me alone, just let me fix it. But yeah,
We
it's
have as I said about the kind of language we use together, and like if you're familiar with the show Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they're constantly screaming, shouting at each other, that's kind of our dynamic. We can be shouting and swearing at each other, but it's all it's part of the process.
Yeah, also it's not harsh either.
No,
Like
well, it can be.
It can be, but we always there's never a time we don't come up with a resolution. So it's like we're open and honest about how we think and feel, and through that we creatively come to a solution.
And it helps
That's
that
the
we've been
best way I can
friends
put it.
forever. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's probably some secret sauce you guys have there, because I could totally imagine that going awry a little bit with some other people, but that's part of why this is super dope, I'm sure. I wanted to ask you a couple questions on a couple of things that were coming to mind as you guys we're talking about how this all came together, it being on chain, is that just a byproduct of what you were trying to build and the nature of how the deliverables would work, being this was so interactive and almost gaming adjacent? And is there any philosophical feeling relative to on-chain art and putting part of it on-chain and literally using the blockchain itself for something besides just the tokenization of a creative work?
That's a heavy question. Any thoughts, 900?
I do have some thoughts. So we wanted it to be on chain. The idea that everything is built and constructed uniquely for everyone, but also we didn't realize this, but when we went to Prohibition, we actually had to check, because this project is fully on chain. There is not a part of it that isn't on chain. We're not pulling assets from anywhere. We're not being deceptive. This whole project, including the FreeJS engine, has been uploaded to the blockchain and is on chain. There is, if anyone goes down, if Prohibition, if Art Blocks, if any of this goes down, this project will work. This, irrelevant of them, you'll be able to go on OpenSea and it will still function, which is
Wow.
which is really good. But technically, we talked about it for a long time because it increased the code size from 200 kilobytes all the way up to 850. So it was definitely a topic of conversation, and we didn't know it was only going to cost us $210 at that point, because we'd heard a lot about Arbitrum, but we didn't know. But actually, we didn't make the decision. Jordan technically made the decision for us by
Jordan's
publicly
the
saying,
founder of Prohibition.
yeah. And me and Paradox saw this tweet that he put out. He responded to someone. Someone said, because we talked to Prohibition about it, and someone asked, "Is this going to be fully on chain?" And me and Paradox were still talking about it, like a bit unsure. And then all of a sudden, Jordan just jumps in while we're trying to come up with a response about it and kind of work out how we're going to answer this. Jordan just goes, "Yeah," like he just says,
Nice.
"Yeah." And we have no idea how much this is going to cost us. And Paradox just turns to me and goes, "Well, Jordan can pay for it if it's too much." Like, he's kind of like,
But
he's
as
kind
it
of forced us
happens,
into it.
so for our, it was 850 kilobytes, including the library, the FreeJS library, and the actual our code, it was $200 to upload everything, which is
210.
yeah, which is
Yeah, it's nothing.
pretty crazy compared to if you're in mainnet, about like
Because
13 grand.
we were looking at like 11,000. Like that was the figure, and everyone kept on saying, "Oh, it's like 10% of the cost, or it was 5%, or it was 1%." And then we went to look at the actual like how much the gas was, and when we worked it out, it was like I was in a car doing a calculation as Paradox was taking me home, and we were I was trying to tell him, like, apparently it's only going to cost us 1%, like 1 or 2%, depending on what gas is. And he was like, "Nah, that's not right." And I was like, "Yeah, it can't be right, can it? Like, going from 11,000 to 210 is just insane."
That is insane. I will tell you, as a collector, putting my collector hat on here, the fact that it's on chain is just another great feather in the cap for this project. In addition to all the amazing things that you put into it, from a historical perspective to, I think there's a lot of discussion now about relative to, are you actually utilizing the blockchain, or are you just kind of using it as rails for liquidity? And this takes full advantage from a lot of different perspectives, from what it could allow from a tech perspective, as far as efficacy, for cost to deploy, for being able to do different things, also for, like you said, for being evergreen and able to work even if the platform goes down, to having that, to me, there's like a checklist of things that are really cool about NFTs, and being fully on chain is definitely one of them. In addition to everything else, you guys tick that box. So that is super, super dope and intriguing to hear your perspective and how you landed there. Just know that, it gets a lot of props from our community as well as others, I am sure.
Thank you.
A lot of interactive elements. I'm still discovering it. By the way, am I right in thinking, it could be coincidence, but the way I would look at it is, when I look at the menu of options, when I'm in there, sometimes I'm just driving and have some controls over headlights. Sometimes I can shoot turrets. Sometimes I can drop like a third wheel. So it's almost like getting that additional feature is like a trait, right? Like almost I got a cool trait
Exactly.
or whatever. That's the way I would look at it. I saw one that was really souped up. It had a whole bunch of things and it had to activate all button. I'm like, that's what I want. That's the cool one there. So I'm having fun perusing these. Feel free to direct me and to do anything specific you'd like to show people while I talk. All these interactive elements. What
Yeah.
excites you about the possibilities and what's happening right now, and then what you guys have for a vision for this going forward?
Oh, that's a
What
big
excites
question.
me. I'll talk a little bit about like traits in general. A couple of figures. So we've got 79 categories of features in CodeTrip. So that's, let me read my list. So it's things like car colors, monoliths, the types of trees in the world, you know, if it's mushrooms or trees or big trees, or we've got accessories. We have front accessory, top accessory, and a back accessory on the car. Those accessories, as you said, have kind of interactive features. So if you've got a gun on the front, you can fire it. If you've got a rocket on the back or the top, you can turn them on and go faster. We wanted like all of our accessory traits to have like it's something fun. Like everything does something. I don't think there's any, unless it's like a spoiler.
There are.
Yeah, there's a
Like the
few.
spoiler doesn't do anything, the shark fin won't do anything. I can't remember all of them, but the wheel on the back is actually like one of my favorite accessories that you can get, and the reason is because we kind of built that one first, and we didn't know what it could do, so we actually have it fall off the car. And it's actually the most complex. It's one of the most complex ones because it falls off the car. Every single time you drive the loop, it moves back one tile. And if you drive all the way back to go pick it back up, it will snap back onto the car. So it's like it became a very complex
Oh
object.
wow,
It's one of the most complex. Probably the most complex is the missile launcher on top. That's probably the most complex.
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
And I saw, you know, I can steer it obviously, and I thought there was directional, like I can reverse, which is cool. And then I saw it to go
Yep.
forward. I'm like, aren't I already going forward? So I hit that button, and this thing was zooming. I don't know if you guys saw, I was flying.
Yeah.
I was almost getting motion sickness here. Like I gotta go to a new one just so I'm not getting myself too distracted by the speed of it. Super dope. When I look at this and I can explore the algorithm, is that possibilities that could be generated? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, so this is actually Prohibition's version of it. I would recommend you close that tab, click the close button on that,
Okay.
and just scroll down a bit
to the
to
description.
the description.
That's
And
the
right at the
first
top
thing.
of the description, oh, that's CodeTrip. So if you just go back a bit or forwards, and just go to the top of the description, there should be a link right at the top. So right there, if you copy that link in about the collection and you paste that into your browser, that will give you a full screen version of Explore Possibilities where you can just press F5 and it will give you a new one and a new one and a new one, and you'll have full control. Whereas
Oh, super
Explore
dope.
Possibilities on Prohibition haven't implemented anything to do that yet. So you're actually locked off from your keyboard commands. So this is the best way to view it if you want to explore possibilities.
Thank you,
Yeah.
because I do get lost in this and play with it. So now I got a new reason. I'll be stuck in here for a couple of minutes, if not hours afterwards. After this, gosh,
We will be killing this, by the way, as soon as every single one of them is sold. That you will not be able to explore possibilities anymore.
Oh, okay. I asked you about possibilities. This is dope. What about this, itself? You talked about different things that you were working on that ultimately you had to stop to be able to ship in time. Are you guys thinking about a new iteration of this? So, where are you looking to progress from here? Which, by the way, I just wanted to caveat that by saying this is super dope and still minting. So I'm not trying to rush you guys, but I know the creative possibilities here must excite you. I know a couple of people in the community were talking about trying to scoop some of these right now as well while they are still open.
Nice. Yeah, so as I said, it is still minting. And I think there's 1024 total supply, and it's currently at 0.02. I think that's the right amount of zeros. It's not much at all. But yeah, we've got plans. We're keeping the kind of CodeTrip, all of our socials alive. We're doing things like, or we're going to be very shortly doing some sort of community competitions. We're thinking about doing some like kind of wrap your vehicle art competitions. We're also
One
looking
second,
into.
could I just chime in?
Yeah.
Can you press 3 on your keyboard? Oh no,
Oh.
you skipped it. On the car you just had was called Bad Neighborhood. It has no wheels, so we're suggesting that the wheels got stolen. But you did
Okay.
have a jet engine, and if you use the jet engine, you still
Oh
move forwards.
It
no!
does move the car.
Yeah,
I thought
we went.
I thought I hit a bug, but I should have known better.
No,
It's actually a
no,
trait.
like
Yeah.
it's a trait. It's a 1 in 100 chance trait. And it actually
And I hit. Oh
stops you
my
moving.
goodness!
Yep. And if you notice, there was your hazard lights were going off because we went through every single little detail. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt Paradox, but I
No, that's
saw
perfect.
it
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh god damn it. But carry on,
No.
Paradox. This is battle tested. There are no bugs. I am outright saying it. It scared the hell out of me to launch this, but there is no
big.
bugs. We really went through it. If you see a bug in there, I will buy you a free mint. I will give you a free mint if you find a bug.
That's what's that called? Where you it's a bounty.
Yeah, we will give you a free mint if you get a bugged one, because we can't actually repair the code anymore. But yeah, sorry, Paradox. Go ahead.
No, it's cool. Just sort of conscious of time. A couple of things I wanted to say. We were where was I? Oh, we're actually currently trying to. Well, we're looking into getting a load of CodeTrip cars into Hyperfy, the platform, so we can do like some racing events. That'll be fun, and there'll be some CodeTrip prizes and stuff like that. But to kind of answer your question about other projects, we're already working on our next generative piece. It's been in the works for a little while. Actually, we've bounced around about 5-6 different ideas, but we're really excited about this next one. Let me see what I'm allowed to say about it. Okay, so the next project, obviously it's a generative project. It's going to be releasing on Prohibition. It's very visual, again, which is very CodeTrip style. CodeTrip being kind of what we call ourselves, like a studio or a partnership. We're Team CodeTrip. So this is the next CodeTrip project. There's going to be interactive elements, but kind of one of the main thing is it's going to be like a social commentary kind of on the crypto scene as a whole. I won't say anything more about that, but I will say that CodeTrip, the original project, was 850 kilobytes. This one is already 1200 kilobytes, and we haven't even started adding much yet. So it's already a lot bigger. But we're using a newer engine, so it means that we can do more. And this is kind of what we wish we'd known early on when we were developing it. So kind of sky's the limit type thing. Yeah.
Super dope. I can't wait to see what tongue-in-cheek stuff you have in there. It sounds like there's going to be an interesting reaction to it, at least with some of the background that you have and familiarity with the evolution of the space. Go ahead, 9/0.
Yeah, I just wanted to say for this project, because I know you asked about this one specifically, we do plan to have a second iteration. It's not going to come in our next project, but we definitely want to have a second iteration because we were limited by what we were developing for, whereas moving forwards this can be so much more, but I can't say anything about it. I would love to, especially since we've got the new Free.js engine, which actually would allow us to have a bigger world. So
a
lot bigger. In fact, we were developing in a newer engine for Free.js to start with until I realized that I was using the wrong engine and we had to rebuild everything, which did add some time to it. But it's gonna be a different experience. We even have a saying, we'll do it in the next one. Right near the end of the development, Paradox will come up with an idea, or I'd come up with an idea, and we'd just be like, next one. It will go in the next one. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and there's some story, there's some lore foundation setting here. So obviously, perhaps this next iteration follows up on that, and we find out with Siri. I don't know how to. I assume it's not
Seri.
Siri. It's Siri.
So
Find out what
this is
Siri's up
exactly what
to.
you were saying about like not being able to get stuff in. We have a whole kind of lore around CodeTrip, and we hint at it in this kind of little script, kind of cinematic script. So, but it came down to time. But this is something we'll be exploring and kind of adding to this kind of universe. But in the next one, I guess.
Can't
we
wait.
also
Go ahead.
We also have like so we say that is a CodeTrip universe. So we're CodeTrip, and everything we make exists in the same universe. I won't say much more than that, but everything is connected without being connected.
Yeah, it'll be in development.
Yeah.
Maybe some avatars that could drive. I don't know. A couple of comments that I had seen in the various communities I'm keeping tabs on right now. Someone said they would love to see a jump option, that they're playing with it and they would like to see jump. It seems like that's natural. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Wanted to give you some feedbacks. I was curious for you guys. This is super dope. A lot of people still exploring it. I'm sure that even minted in, didn't get around to checking out all the possibilities. How have you seen people react? Like, the reception has been great from what I've seen, but how have you seen people been using this? Because I would think that there's some cool things that you could do with this relative to using it for intros, or like you talked about putting in Monoverse or some interactive gaming elements. Like, what are some possibilities you've seen or had talks about, and what would you like to see occur with these?
I'd say what we've seen ranges from people just looking at the thumbnail or just kind of the surface level. It ranges from that to people that really dive into all the menus and they play with the effects, and then they post on social media. We did an event a little while ago in the UK, and we had like different demo areas, and there was this one, I forget his name, one kind of young crypto artist, and he spent like an hour and a half.
Catasia.
Yeah, just playing and exploring. And he really got into it, and kept throwing ideas at us, and like people get excited about it. But going forwards, yeah, I mean, we'd love to put some of these into virtual worlds, but there's, I'm not going to say technical limitations, but there are hurdles to come over. I guess 900 could talk about that. I mean, how possible is that kind of thing?
Paradox, do you want to talk about a potential collaboration we're doing in potential competition?
Yes. So there's an artist called WG Meets. I think it's WG Meets. I'm gonna confirm that.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's doing this really cool thing where he has put out a thing on Twitter, and he says, "Hey, I want to release art on 01. I want to do collabs, and I want I don't care who it is, and I'll get 50-50 on all of the proceeds once the secondary market's on 01." And I know this guy anyway, so we've been chatting about it, and we're going to do a little collab with him. In theory, if he has time, where we will give him kind of a snippet of a video of CodeTrip, and then he's going to overlay some like car graphics, like a wraparound art over our cars, and then I'll take that layer, put it back on the video, and we'll have an NFT. And that's that's for fun. But we are considering doing this, opening it up to the wider community, so people can kind of post 01 NFTs. But I can see you're on 01 now. So what we're doing with 01 is we are kind of releasing two kind of series. One is called the classified projects, and basically they're like sneak peeks into anything we're doing right now. So they can be little tests, little spoilers for what's coming up. And then the other series we got is the CodeTrip Declassified, and that's a kind of a commentary on the original production of CodeTrip, like the making of and stuff. But yeah, so if you are interested in kind of our development story, definitely check us out on 01, and you can get some sneak peeks of what we're doing now. You can see one right there.
I love this image. I love it.
It says a lot, but it doesn't say a lot.
It says a lot, but it doesn't. Obviously, this is a classified image as well, so we can't talk about it. We're kind of doing it to kind of make other people put things together. So the first video you saw, that was classified as well. So that's a test we did with the new engine to see if we could achieve a kind of a look and a feel. And the last one is me and Paradox. We had for my birthday, we had a sort of decompression night where we kind of just talked through ideas, and his partner was nice enough to allow him to get drunk with me.
Get
And
drunk and draw
those
stuff.
images are the concept images that both me and him drew. So I did the middle
very
one.
badly on an iPad.
Very badly on an iPad, out of the way. So that is genuinely like a concept image for the
I thought
actual
these
project.
were the I thought these were the chalices that you got drunk out of. So I'm glad you clarified that for me.
Yeah,
These are hints to aspects of the next project.
Yeah. So as we get through development stages, obviously 0.1 only allows us to release every day. So we're going to do a classified one, and then we're going to do a declassified one. So the declassified one is the first ever run of CodeTrip. Like, it's the first image that was in the world. So hopefully, if you collect all of them, you're actually going to have the whole development story of CodeTrip. Obviously, I'll give you milestones rather than here's the second image that I sent to Paradox. It will
Because that was
be
a lot.
a bit further along. Yeah, it will show us also go from the new 3JS engine and have to revert to the old one, and you'll kind of see a difference. We actually lost some scope there, which was a bit upsetting. But
that's very cool to give a kind of a retroactive look into what you had gone through to get to where you came out with this project in conjunction. So it's almost like from one point, going in opposite directions to the ongoing development cycle of what you're doing now, and some glimpses into what that's going to be. So super dope. Of course, a lot of big fans of 0.1 within our community, and some contentious and good conversation about it and what it means relative to art. So welcome anyone to jump into that conversation, to talk about CodeTrip, to talk about 0.1 on the Whale Discord or on Twitter, or just with any of us. If you happen to see us out in Web3, wherever that may be, the Twitterverse, the Whip, you name it. Just don't distract me when I'm trying to get over those obstacle courses, because I still struggle, even with the better token mechanisms that they have now. So I know you guys, I know we're running up on time, but this project was just super dope. So I had a lot of questions for you. I also got DM'd a bunch from the community. So if you don't mind, I'd love to just take a couple of minutes to rapid fire through a few of these questions for you guys. And we can, do it justice, because they sent me some really, really cool questions. This one's for 9/0. What has been the most surprising thing for you to work on a crypto art / Web3 project compared to the other work that you've done?
This would be it. This is the only. Do you mean like the differences?
Right. So the dynamic. Was there anything unique or different, or that surprised you, or that was, a contrast to your other work? The nature of this and in this environment. What do you think is some of the biggest or surprising things for you?
People. Definitely people. I've learned a lot from listening to people talk about being on probation from spaces, interacting with people on Twitter. I had none of that when I worked before. It was very similar to working in a basement. Collaborating with Paradox is I understand Paradox on a different level now than I used to know him as just a friend. As a collaborator, he's been extremely. I've noticed similarities in our behavior that I didn't really see before. That was extremely surprising to me. But also working in JavaScript, that's new to me. It was very challenging. I didn't know JavaScript before. It was a lot of things that were hard to kind of overcome. They were probably the hardest things and surprising. But people are definitely is the thing I'm most interested in, which was surprising to me. Just a sense of community.
And you've mentioned that a few times, so it's definitely something that resonated with you, and it talks to what we speak about here so often. It's good to hear it's not just lip service, right? That community really drives a lot of this and is what makes this movement special. A question for you, Paradox. Someone said, with your longevity in this space, what are some of your favorite NFT projects, either that you've held or right now?
So there's a project that I love. It's not a massive project, but it's called Movie Shots, and it's by the some of the team that did like Crypto Wieners. And the idea behind Movie Shots is that it takes a whole movie, and it was a Run Lola Run, if you're familiar with that one. And it basically does like screenshots of like pivotal moments in the film, and then it puts it on the blockchain. So they're kind of like, what's the word? That they're putting up a whole movie in such, it's kind of like a digital collectible for a whole movie. I mean, and they're the first people I know that did that. And from a kind of filmmaking perspective, I think that's really cool. And I've still not seen anyone do it. And there is totally massive hurdles to get over when it comes to like copyright, or at least you couldn't do it with a Marvel film, not unless you had massive contracts with those studios. But I see that being something that becomes the norm in the future, and I think that Movie Shots are kind of paving the way for that. So definitely check that out and see if we'll see what their next movie is that they're doing. But I just thought that was really interesting. Yeah.
That's super dope. That's one I'm not familiar with, and I'm sure a lot of other people will be put onto for the first time. So I'm so glad that they asked that question. So thank you to the community member that shot that over to my team, and they related to me in the DM. Here's some interesting ones. Someone asked, are there any Easter eggs that have not been revealed or that you haven't told people about that will be generated in CodeTrip?
Yes, I think I'd say there are. One of them was one that you saw, the what do we call it, the bad neighborhood.
Yeah,
Okay.
no one owns it. So actually, the one you had specifically was the combination of having a jet engine and Bad Neighborhood. Bad Neighborhood has not been revealed yet in any invocation, but the chance to get it with a jet engine as well would have been even rarer.
And
so that's one.
You guys are making me feel bad, but I got to remember, it was just a random generation. That wasn't actually my mint, so
they can press F5 and find it. Yeah, they'll be able to find it. You just need to do it 100 times and then potentially get a jet engine as well.
But there's another one we were looking at today, and I think I can say this. We have monster trucks in there as well, and they just haven't shown up yet. I don't think they've shown up yet. And then there's things like if you get a limo, all right, but then you get like the super stretched
limo,
tray, you get a super stretched limo. So there's loads of kind of things like that.
Not only that, you get a super stretched limolimo, and if you get a gun on top, that gun is huge. It's not small.
And if you then get a rocket launcher, what's it called, a jet engine on top, it looks ridiculous.
Yes, because everything is procedurally generated. Like those cars are built with code. There is, in case that last question was referring to what was the biggest challenge, building those cars, the first car we built took 3 days to work out how to build it. So in case that was the actual question, that was the hardest thing. Yeah. No, I mean the last question I had to answer. The car was the hardest thing to build, but the Easter eggs, the car's cool. Try out all the accessories. They do things. Sometimes
this one's pretty souped up right here. This one's got
has free accessories, I think.
Yep.
There's one that I like, which we called a toaster light. I think I've seen come up before. And basically, it's I'm not sure if you're familiar with Battlestar Galactica with the Cylons and the red eyes like flashing back and forth.
Yes.
You get them on the front of the cars, and you could also say it's like a Knight Rider type thing. But I'm a Battlestar fan rather than Knight Rider.
Knight Rider goes.
You're talking to a man wearing a cyber monocle. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
So that's super dope. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those pop up. Did you have another one you wanted to mention, 9/0?
Oh no, they're in there. But
you're like, I've leaked enough. We got to leave some surprises. I appreciate it. I appreciate reaching into the cereal box and picking out the prize. Here's a wild one, and I'm going to throw this out there as our last one because I find it interesting. I already had my opinion on what the soundtrack would be looking at this, but the question is, if you guys had to pick a song for your favorite CodeTrip drive loop, what would your songs be?
It's interesting you say this. We you know what we were saying about we'll do it in the next one. Just before we went to Prohibition, we were looking into like actual music in this, and it was all going to be like synthwavy, kind of like very cyberpunky style, like and when we first started playing with like the camera, the car movement, I would take I got a stock piece of music from you know, a music site, and it was all very synthwave, cyberpunky, and I played that over and over again. I might post that on our socials because it's me having a laugh, but that for me, because I listened to it so many times, that's it for me. But do you have something specific, 900?
I do have something specific. It's actually so for me, the song "Faded" by ZHU, I think. That is probably the soundtrack I hear in my head as I'm driving through. So even on my Instagram, there's a video, and I think I even left a comment. This is probably not Paradox's vision, but my vision is that that's the song I hear. So on my Instagram, there is you're going to see a lot of videos of me developing CodeTrip in this, and also going on walks. But there is a purple video. So keep going down, keep going down, keep going down.
I'm not logged in, so it's gonna block me from it. But people can get to your Insta from your Twitter profile, which is also 9/0, and check that. I'm definitely gonna check that music after this, as well as throw on some synthwave, which is what I would have picked myself personally. I don't know the specific song, although I do listen to dark synthwave, so it's a little you know, a little Stranger Things-esque, a little bit different, because there can be some poppy and happy ones. I like, you know, I like to think of myself as a little bit of a loner out there cruising in my CodeTrip that ultimately I hope to get after this discussion. But thank you guys so much for all, not only talking about the project, but also the personal insights into your relationships, how this project came to be. And it sounds like some alpha on stuff that's, you know, coming soon that we should be excited about. So it was super dope talking to you.
Hell yeah. It's been great.
Really nice. Thanks for having us.
And once again, guys, you can go to the website. You can go to their Twitter for CodeTrip. It's just the word CodeTrip on Twitter. You can find their links to the Prohibition art drop itself, and you can go and explore the different iterations and just have fun playing with it. Also, the mint continues to be live if you're interested in collecting. Once again, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been great. I told you we could talk for the world.
Yeah. I'd probably just leave on the note of, if someone wants to explore the possibilities, make sure you go to that link. If you don't go to that link, you won't have any control over the vehicle.
And that's at prohibition.art.
Yep. And the link is, you know, just written in text. So copy this link, paste it into something else, and you'll have fun for hours on end, like I'm going to be here. Hopefully I don't miss my appointment that's coming up on the top of the hour. Guys, can't wait to talk again, because it sounds like we will when you have your next project. It's going to be a good one.